Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. The gentleman's agreement drama continues. Slasher claimed yesterday he wants the M4 G8. The pros have gone some way to doing exactly that, getting rid of some of the underbarrel attachments, but all of a sudden some of the people from the CDL side involved with the league are starting to question a little bit more whether this is a good idea that the pros are doing this and whether there's a way to shut this down. Very much into your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you are new as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that one. Plenty to discuss. Firstly, some update on the Season 1 side. Neymar Jr., Pogba and Messi are going to be in the game coming pretty soon on, I guess, November the 21st or whatever. Or I guess like a few days after each other, whatever. Basically, the World Cup's coming soon and they're doing a thing like this. I thought it was pretty interesting. Let's talk though about the actual things that are arriving into the game. This is the roadmap, as they love to do nowadays, for Season 1 of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. This on the big screen, you guys can see Warzone, Battle Pass, this type of stuff. Left-hand side, bottom left-hand corner, kind of small, is the updates to the multiplayer side. So Shoot House and Shipment are arriving. Yeah, like honestly, if there were maps to add, they're not too bad. From a public match perspective, I think that, yeah, Shoot House, given the maps in this game right now, might even have to be considered for competitive. In 5v5 back in Modern Warfare 2019, there was no way it was going to work. This game, it actually could be possible. Kind of sad, really, because I see new mode Raid, and I'm like, damn, Raids? But yeah, it turns out it's, of course, not going to be Raid the map. But also, the CDL Mosh Pit has been noted here. So we saw this a few days ago, that the CDL Mosh Pit is going to arrive. Honestly, this is pretty cool, to be honest. The fact that, 3 weeks into launch, we're actually going to be able to play some competitive stuff. Now, it's not going to be ranked yet, Treyarch have said, because Infinity Ward don't do ranked play. They don't really know how to even do it, I imagine. So Treyarch have to do it for them, and Treyarch are going to implement that into the game. They said in 2023, but until then, we're going to have the CDL Mosh Pit, basically what there was the entire season in Modern Warfare 2019. Not sure how quickly they added it into the game, but it's kind of a similar idea where you just play the CDL maps and modes, and there might well be some updates over time as well. Of course, also worthy of note here is this image itself, which shows the CDL kind of, the outfit, I guess, of this guy. Now, I never really found the normal CDL ones particularly, I never thought they looked particularly good. This is another example of that, but honestly, I don't think it looks too bad. I think it's probably more like the Cold War one, looks better than whatever we got last season, and probably back in Modern Warfare 2019 as well, if we even got anything that year. But the key thing to note is that we've heard rumors going around that these will be customizable for the teams, or maybe not these, but there are some customizational features now. Apparently, the CDL has given the teams control over not only their in-game weapon skins, but also their jerseys, which you might imagine would extend to their in-game jerseys and stuff as well, right? So usually they reveal stuff like this into the game around about this time, well, usually it's a bit later than now, to be fair. And then there's versions of this that look like for the particular CDL teams, which are just copy and paste the same pattern with different colors. You guys know how it's been the last few years. Same with the weapon camos. However, if the teams are getting to design their own weapon camos this year and they're getting to actually design their own IRL jerseys, then they probably can design their own IRL, skins for the characters, right? You would imagine that would be the case. So this is the early kind of designs that we have. There's another one right here, actually, which is the female one. So there's a few different characters that have been spotted already. They look honestly better than they have done in the past. I've never been enthralled about these kind of designs in general, just the CDL colors and whatever. But when these get converted into the actual CDL, team skins, if they get control of that, it's pretty cool. And we've even seen Lyman last night came out with this, his kind of M4 camo design. People can say whether it looks ugly or beautiful, but at the end of the day, it looks like the New York Subliners, right? And that's really what we want to see from these team camos. Rather than just these super cookie cutter, I mean, like the designs they have had for the last couple of years, they just use a 10 headshot camo type template and change up the colors for each individual team. This is the way to do it, and honestly, Lineman's made camos in the past for other games. Rainbow Six, I believe Chiefs Esports got him to make a camo that is now in Rainbow Six's game. So, obviously teams might be looking for similar things, hopefully for Call of Duty. So usually we'd look at this and say, yeah, well, what could have been? Call of Duty could be so much better. But actually this season, it's like, well, this could be in the game. This is possible, maybe not this exact one, but something like this may be arriving at some point or another. So some kind of promising stuff. Just wanted to mention this as well, because there was some talk about this because of the maps that we're seeing come back here for Season 1. Shipment is always going to arrive. That's what they always do. Shoot House, as I say, is it going to be viable for competitive? Not so sure. At least it's relatively symmetrical, but a very small, public match friendly map basically from a few years ago. These are all the maps from the Modern Warfare games that have not yet been remastered. So things like Vacant and stuff, I think we saw in Modern Warfare 2019 maybe. But anyway, you can see some of the COD 4 maps. District was a spectacular search and destroy map in my opinion. Then we've got the MW2 maps. We've got the likes of, I'm not really sure what was played in competitive back then, but Karachi, I know, like Invasion, maybe even Skid Row, I'm not exactly sure. M4. But yeah, some of these maps, of course, and then Modern Warfare 3, I mean, you've got some cracking maps in here, Bootleg, Arcadon, Lockdown, like Seatown, these maps as well. So yeah, definitely intrigued to your thoughts on this, but if there were some maps to return, because we're expecting next season they're going to drop this like absolutely mega map pack, right? Because their plan is for season 2 of Modern Warfare 2 is like, yeah, get them to pay another $70 and we'll drop them a load of maps that we've already made in the past, but now we're going to charge for again, I guess is their idea. They're probably going to do additional stuff on top of that, but I'm just hoping they don't wait the entire year until we get some of these maps back, because I think they will do it at some point, but some of these maps could be playable in this game for competitive, and we want them to arrive sooner rather than later, because if Hotel is gone after Major 1, the map pool is once again looking very thin on the ground indeed. Let's talk about GAs then, right? Because some pros even suggested GAing some of the maps when the CDL initially announced the wrong maps a couple of days ago, but now we're talking about the weapons again. Slasher said yesterday, after not having the greatest scrim results up against the Boston Bridge, why am I using an M4? It was banned in 2020 in Cold War, why is it still allowed in this game? And obviously there's been a lot of drama and talk about this. Now the pros have taken a step towards getting rid of the M4, or at least trying to make it worse. We saw this the other day with snipers. They GA'd the attachments on the snipers. So, well, look, whether snipers are going to go or not, I don't know. For now, I'm pretty sure that the attachments are gone, and I think they feel like for now that probably balances them well enough. Now, we'll also see this on other guns. If they're too strong, they'll get rid of some of the attachments that make them too strong. We saw this on the bar back in World War II, when the bar was considered to be a super strong AR weapon. They removed the long barrel from it from competitive play. They GA'd it, and then its, well, 3-shot kill range was reduced quite significantly without the long barrel attachment, and they thought that made it viable and kind of valid to use up against the PPSH and the STG into its own category. They're trying to do the same here potentially with the M4. Now, firstly, we've got to talk the Vaznev, just because Standy here, despite being an SMG player, is talking that the Vaznev might be too strong. So some people, well, clearly he's implying here that everyone's talking about the M4, M4 this, M4 that, get rid of the M4, do XYZ, let's use the Scar again. That's been Slash's suggestion. But then even SMG players are like, well, look, the Vaznev is rather too good as well. So usually we end up in a situation in an ideal world where there's pretty much just one SMG that's viable. We usually see that be the case in every single title. Black Ops 2 was a nice exception there, and even Call of Duty Black Ops 3, when we had, the VMP, the Vesper, even the Pharaoh was slightly viable in that game. But Black Ops 2, we had the MSMC, the Scorpion, even the MP7 Rambo would use. But usually in recent games, there's one SMG that comes to the top, but ideally there's like 2 ARs that are viable. There's more of like a flex mid-ish range one with maybe slightly higher fire rates, and then a longer range one, kind of like what we saw in World War II that I said with the bar and the STG. But the attachments right now are the ones getting a lot of the traction. The last few days, so many of these attachments have been banned by the pros. Now, whether this is fair enough, there's loads of attachments in the game. I don't really blame them getting rid of some of them, but do they really have are they really the best informed people to be saying whether these attachments should be gone or not? Like, they have the best understanding of the game, but at the same time, if they get rid of something, and then it gets changed, or a nerf happens, or a buff happens, or whatever, or there's just a tweak and a patch update effectively, then those things often stay banned. So I don't really blame them, but at the same time, it's like, should all this stuff be getting banned? Because we're just under 2 weeks into the game, and already the list of GAs the pros have gone through is pretty immense, to be honest. And even as Arcitys says, right, he's getting used to attachments, getting used to a weapon class he's using, and then all of a sudden the next day, that class now is banned because those attachments are gone. So this is the frustration the pros are currently having, and this is the latest one to be added to the list. So all underbarrels on the M4 that increase its hipfire accuracy, which is basically all of them, have been added to the GA list. So all you can now use is the FSS Shark Fin 99 and the Edge 44 grip. That's all you can use on the underbarrel, because they've banned all the other ones. Because I think the frustration has been that the hipfire on the M4 is slightly too good. Like, even though the ADS time is pretty slow, as it generally is in this game, if you guys can see this particular clip right here, when, well, especially this first example, where Donny Temp is getting absolutely beamed, this guy jumps around the corner, well, it's actually Slasher here, and barely aims in time, but still kills him with the hipfire. And you can actually see this happen quite a lot, where the hipfire is very good while you're aiming down sights, and the pros are trying to prevent this by getting rid of all the hipfire beneficial attachments, because the M4 wouldn't be quite so strong, probably, if it wasn't for this. Now, some pros disagree whether this is enough or whether this is too far. Like, I mean, obviously, the pros are always generally pretty split on stuff like this. This is Octane's new class, I believe, with the FSS Shark Fin, because he can no longer use the other ones. But it's difficult, right? Because we saw Bance say that 10 of the 12 representatives from each of the 12 teams in the kind of gentleman's agreement representative chat that make these calls, 10 of those players are AR players. So usually they're going to favour, you would imagine, the ARs. Now, of course, it's always a bit interesting because they should really be favouring their team's play rather than their own individual play. say, but it's still always a discussion that's had that generally the people that make the calls here are the more veteran players that are more likely to be AR players, just how it tends to be. So maybe if the SMGs had had a 10-2 majority in there, they would have got the M4 gone completely, but because the majority are ARs, they're balancing the game in such a way that the M4 stays, but now it's the hip fire accuracy which is going to be nerfed off the weapon. So into your thoughts on this, I think this is probably fair enough to some degree. Instead of just GAing the gun, they're going to try getting rid of certain attachments, which is what they really should have done. I think, well, Black Ops Cold War, there was some talk about this where, you know, what if you try the snipers with no attachments? They never really did that, I don't think. They just, like, got rid of them entirely. So I think they're taking some further steps here, but maybe if the M4 still is deemed to be too strong after this change, then they'll have to get rid of it entirely. Now, Slasher isn't so convinced this was the best idea, as he says here. I don't think it accomplishes much, but that's what they decided, I guess. I don't know. So basically saying he's not really fully convinced this is actually the best of ideas. He probably wants it gone entirely, right, rather than just this, well, small change as he sees it, getting rid of these underbarrel attachments. Maybe it's just one step towards the M4 in due course getting banned, because we saw in Black Ops Cold War, the XM4 was clearly the strongest AR. It took an entire major cycle for it to get banned, but when it did, then the Krig became meta pretty much all across the world. Now, this from Grazen, Adam Adamo from the Trons Vulture side. He's not so happy, I imagine, and I can understand why, about these GAs. It's not so good for the community. It's stressful and strange to keep up with. The pros are like always in a mess about this. Some pros agree, some pros disagree, always drama about it, and if there's a patch update, it changes the meta, things happen. Like, it's always a messy situation. It's understandable why they need to happen and why things need to get adjusted, because the game is not well balanced out of the box for competitive play. That is especially evident this year. But what is another way around this? And are the CDL happy year after year to just sit back there and let the pros decide what they want to decide and then kind of copy that into the actual CDL rules? Because you've also got to align ranked play and league play with what the pros play. So if the pros are banning these attachments, you've got to kind of add that into the ban section for ranked play. But then it's like, do they really want to do that? That's a question. And I think the key point that Ben is raising here is like, you don't really know whether the pros are making a good decision here. They just decide between the 12 representatives, and that's what goes for the entire season. Like, there's no real discussion with the CDL and with the community and with other stakeholders. There's no, like, you know, if there was a CDL GA commission led by, I don't know, TP and Aches or something like that, and they could, you know, they could look at the game, they could think about things and decide whether what the pros want is actually reasonable or whether it's not. And, you know, because the community gets frustrated with these constant GAs, and you can certainly understand it. The other thing that's been discussed right now is an additional change to the rule set. Here is Hitch's proposal based on what he's tested out over the last few days. He reckons this makes the game play way better, and a lot of the pros have agrees with what they've played. He reckons health up to 130, ultimate perk, overclocked, and quick fix. I think quick fix might be like a health thing. Overclock, though, I imagine lets you get your dead silence quicker effectively. 2 active field upgrades allowed, and field upgrade charge rate ×2. So giving you dead silence way more often, I guess, is the idea here. So these are his suggestions for updating the CDL rule set. Whether any of this goes through, it seems kind of unlikely to imagine. But like, if the pros actually were to play this in 8 and realize it's better, then what is the difference between them banning stuff from GAs and getting it added into the rule set effectively, even though it's not officially in the rule set, but often they do get copied over into ranked play, like the XM4, for example, pretty sure got banned from ranked play. What's the difference between that and then potentially going for something like this? But I do imagine it's going to be rather difficult to execute, and still Slash has been fighting this good fight for the red dots, but yeah, apparently they're not thinking this is actually going to be happening though. So yeah, Jesus bro, who's in the chat? So Slash has been trying with the other pros, but maybe other pros aren't even down for the red dots to return. So very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you are new, take care, and I'll see you next time.